This video is sponsored by the amazing courses in the description down below on real estate investing, stock investing, and making YouTube videos. Check out that coupon code.
What's up, everyone? In this video, I'm going to do a walkthrough with you on this property, and I'm going to give you a starting point of view of how to begin a renovation. So this video is going to be all about how to take a disaster and actually get on course and get on a plan with a property. So let's walk through this beach home that I bought. This won't be a video as to how I bought the house or the pricing or the details of that. This will be more of how do you actually get started with a renovation, because I get that question all the time, like, how do you start? But the reality at this place is when you walk into a place like this, you look around and you're like, dude, Kevin, you literally already took everything out. Well, in this case, I actually bought this house stripped. It was one of the reasons I was able to get a really good deal on it. So in the event that you already have a house that is stripped, well, that's where we're going to start this video off. See, this house actually came with approved plans to add on to the section off the kitchen over here, to add on a two-story addition over there. The garage is over this way. They were going to add on top of that garage. They were going to have an elevator shaft around the corner here and add all of these crazy things to this property. I came to this project and said, okay, this is a project that obviously needs to be put back together. I can take that last contractor proposal, which is what the seller got, for $800,000 and do their magical dream home renovation. But if I did that kind of crap, I'd go bankrupt. And that's not what we're gonna do. Instead, on a project like this, the first thing I try to do is I try to say, where can I get the biggest bang for my buck? Where can I spend the least amount of money and make the most amount of money? And so what we did in this area right here in this kitchen is we decided, you know what, we're going to open up the kitchen a little bit and just do a bar over here. Rather than moving the kitchen, let's just open up the kitchen and bring the kitchen into the existing space a little bit. Let's forget about doing crazy additions, because who's got that kind of money? We ain't doing that. Instead, to make the place feel more bright and airy, I mean, I bought this as a stripped house for over $1.3 million. And so what's the easiest way to add airiness and openness to a house? Can lights. So I'm going to be adding about 40 can lights to this property, which is a lot. But now I look at this and I go, okay, so I've opened up the kitchen. I'm adding a ton of lighting, and the place, when I fix it up, you know, even just with generic, inexpensive materials, is going to look nice because it's new. And anything you buy that's new already looks nice. Like, think about this when you're thinking about construction. When you go into like a 1980s home, do you turn the faucets on thinking to yourself, that was probably a $200 faucet. Oh no, this is a cheap one. It was a $35 faucet. No, guess what? They all look cheap. Every single 1980 faucet that I've ever seen looks like crap, and it looks cheap. So when I put in, you know, a $69 faucet, or sometimes you get the Project Source $49 ones in like the little guest bedroom or guest bathroom, nobody cares. It looks new, and new is nice. Now, that doesn't mean you want to do shoddy work, right? You want to do quality work behind the walls. You want your structures to be good. You want your electrical and your plumbing to be good. You don't want to cut corners. Now, the reality, though, is you gotta be careful overspending. Because, see, we might be adding a lot of cabling here to do our can lights. But I'm also coming in and leaving as much of the existing wiring as I can, because that's the big noob mistake that people make. They come into a property and they say, oh, but Kevin, if I'm going to add can lights, then I may as well rip out all of the existing wiring in the home. Everything that's already here, why don't I just get rid of this? And I'll just start over. I'll rip out all of this, and see the electrical panel over there, back here, we'll just get rid of that, and we'll do everything from scratch. Well, but here's the problem.
Quick note before I hit that problem. I recently partnered with Deal Machine to help me find deals off market, and I encourage you to check it out. I've got a link down below. It's metkevin.com/deals. Basically, take a picture of a property that you see that looks like a fixer-upper, and they automatically put you on a follow-up list to get you in contact with that seller. And I'm going to be using that over the next couple years to see how many deals I can find. I'm personally really excited about it. Check it out. Link down below.
Problem. Every time you start from scratch, the city comes in and says, well, Back then, outlets every 8 to 10 feet were okay. Now that you ripped out all the wiring, well, now we want outlets every 6 feet, or whatever the code is for your city. So anytime you start over, you tend to make more work for yourself. And so that's risky. That's why I like to go into these projects and say, okay, where is it that I could do the least amount of work possible? So opening up that little kitchen. So far, I haven't done any major changes. In fact, I go upstairs, I'm just gonna put the same flooring throughout this property. I'm putting all the walls back the way they were. There was a bedroom here. Guess what? I'm leaving it a bedroom. I'm leaving it a bedroom and I'm leaving it a closet. No major changes. It's a huge mistake that constantly gets made. Here's what actually somebody had turned into one large bedroom. So this house was actually a 2-bedroom when I bought it. And so I think to myself, cool, that's great. Y'all probably wanted a bigger master, but you know what? It's a 1978 community. We're gonna put a wall back, and we're making this back into a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. We are normalizing. So rather than over improving and adding on and making this something it's not, I'm actually just going to bring this back to what it was. So when I got to the ideas of how do I start remodeling a project like this? Like, how do you get started? Where's step number 1? Let's try to make an easy little punch list. So the first thing that we should always do when we're thinking about remodeling is step 1, framing. Anything that has to do with lumber, ask yourself, where am I moving doors? Where am I moving windows? And ideally, you're not moving a lot of them. For example, right here, this is the 2nd story. I wanted to open up this master right here to have this section pulled back a little bit more because we're actually gonna have the entrance to the master be right around here. And so when you come in, you have this silly kind of like extra wall here that's not really necessary. I feel like we should get rid of that, right? I mean, how hard would that be? Just put a header in, right? But then you talk to an engineer and they say, well, Kevin, if you do that, you're gonna have to put posts underneath that, and then you're gonna have to shore up the concrete foundation underneath that. And so all of a sudden, what does that mean? Money, 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 money. Cost, 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 and cost is bad. I do not like spending money. So let's come up with a quick punch list of what we would do to renovate this property or to begin a renovation like this. Well, the first thing that I did was I talked to Lauren and I said, where can we open up walls like this kitchen space here without overspending and over-improving and keeping our costs down and our project simple? And we thought, okay, here's what we're going to do. Step number 1, we're going to open up the laundry room so that way it's not in the garage, it's not an exterior space. We're gonna make that an interior space. We're going to open up that bar in the kitchen. And in terms of opening walls, that's it. That's all we're going to do. Not a lot of work. Then up top, we're going to, since we're making that one room again, we're gonna add a French door and a window in the other room. Done. That way we've got 2 rooms with access to the balcony, 1 room with no access to the balcony. So now we're thinking, okay, those are all the changes we're gonna make. Let's now put the property back together. Well, we needed a wall in the upstairs bathroom because the seller had removed that wall in the upstairs bathroom, so we put the wall back. We needed a wall in that 3rd bedroom, we put the wall back. So we came up with our plan first, what we're gonna do structure-wise. Then we put the framing in. Now we're doing our electrical and our plumbing. And the goal is to just add on to what's there without going through and tearing everything out and completely starting over. Now in this case, they already torn out a ton of crap, which kind of sucks. They took out all the plumbing already. They took out a lot of the drywall already. The more they take out, the more money I have to spend putting it back together. And that's always the newbie mistake is, crap, here I go, taking out more stuff. I don't like taking out stuff. When people get really excited about demo day, for example, they start tearing out everything. I'm like, no. How can we spend the least amount of money possible? So, the mission for this place is simple. Let's start with our framing plan. Done. Now we framed it. Now we're on to plumbing and electrical. And the beautiful thing is, once we get done with all of our plumbing and electrical that we're just now installing, and we put our strike plates on and we make sure everything's to code, and we get our plumbing and electrical inspected by the city inspector, then we'll get to insulate the walls. And then the fun stuff happens. We come through and I put in our drywall, and then we can start working on all of our cosmetics. Then it's kind of like a regular renovation. But look at some of the other tricks that I did to keep my renovation simple. This is where the fridge used to be. So I put a sticky note. Fridge, we're putting it in the same spot again. This is where I'm gonna have a cabinet, because that's where a cabinet, I'm assuming, was. We're gonna add an under cabinet light. So we're gonna run some wires here, and we're gonna run those now, so that way when we have the cabinets in, we already have the wire stubbed out for an under cabinet light. More lighting rather than adding on. That's what I told myself on this deal. I go, Kevin, rather than spending money on tearing up a foundation and doing all this crazy structural work, forget that, just add an extra bit of lighting. And on, $1+ million property, I think it's okay to spend a little bit more on some LED lighting. LED lighting, after all, not that expensive. Over here was the microwave. So guess what's going back there? Some microwave's going back there. The stove used to be right here, so I'm putting the stove right back there. And then obviously the sink was over here. We've got this kind of ugly plywood that they screwed up over here. We'll get rid of that plywood and redo that. We're adding the can lighting. We're redoing the plumbing. And a lot of that is in progress right now. But it's really fun to look at, okay, well, what did they have? For example, let's go over here. Look at what this place looked like. This is what the bathroom kind of looked like. And so now we look at this and say, okay, well, we're gonna leave this bathroom for our purposes, just so we have a place to wash our hands and go to the bathroom while it's a construction site. But ordinarily, I might come in here, change these knobs on this cabinet, replace the toilet, replace the flooring, keep the cabinet, maybe paint the cabinet, and call it a day. And that's my view of, if I take the cabinet out, what do I have to do? I have to redo all the plumbing, I have to redo the drywall, that's gonna be damaged, it's not gonna be the same fit of a cabinet, so now I'm running into more work. Minimize work. Minimizing work is so important when it comes to construction. But you gotta be careful for red flags as well, and that's something where I always say, hey, when it comes to construction, the more you do it, the more comfortable you get with it. The more I get to say, hey, you know what, we're gonna go ahead and use a specific kind of post or a certain kind of beam over here, the easier it is to come back and say, hey, let's just do that again. And you start building that relationship with the people that you work with. Hey, we always use the same doorknobs, we use the same light fixtures, and you build on that. And so one of the big things that I remember when I got started doing renovations is I always thought, oh my gosh, everything had to be perfect. And one of the big reliefs in my life was coming back and realizing, next house. So if you ever go through a renovation, you get overwhelmed and you're like, oh my gosh, I made a mistake, or oh my gosh, I forgot to do something. I mean, obviously, if it's a health and safety concern, go back and fix it. But you can always do another job in the future. I would rather do 2 or 3 very good projects than overspend and take 2 years on one project, killing myself over every little detail. These aren't forever homes for me to live in, and I'd be happy to live in, but I'm not making this like my perfect dream home or whatever. It's just homes that we're bringing back to a 2020 version of their original charm and character. And I like to add some amenities too, Like now's the time to add ceiling fans. So I do that, and we add the right wiring too, so we can have 2 little switches here. We'll probably have to do a combo switch here since the box is so small, but we'll do a little switch for the light, and we'll do a switch for the fan. You gotta think about those things during this phase, right? This is why I say we gotta plan first on what wall modifications are we doing, then we do our wall modifications, then we do our plumbing and electrical. Now is the time for me to look around and go, okay, do I really need an Ethernet outlet somewhere? If I'm gonna add it, it's gonna be now. And I am tempted to add an Ethernet outlet up here in the hallway and one downstairs, have both of them go to the laundry room so I could put my modem over there, a router up here, router down there, or a Wi-Fi access point. Boom, you got great internet. So these are just some ideas. Hopefully they're helpful to you on kind of how to take away some extra tips on your initial renovations. Hopefully that's helpful. I'll do some more of these if y'all like them. I really appreciate it. Feel free to subscribe or share. And folks, we'll see you in the next one.